to tonight's news bulletin live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. But first, the headlines. A national campaign to support and help people in the affected areas started, and various sectors continue restoring services damaged by Cyclone Shaheen. His Excellency the Minister of Finance traces awarding a number of projects to rebuild some affected roads in the governorates of North and South Al-Batina, and temporary accommodations are provided to citizens whose houses were damaged. And the European Union observers visits polling stations in Baghdad as special voting kicks in. Thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a cabal of greetings to His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, President of Uganda, on his country's independence anniversary. Al-Khabura and As-Suwaiq wilayas in North Al-Batina governorates have seen today an outstanding national volunteering campaign reflecting the spirit of cooperation among Omanis. The campaign aimed to support and help citizens and residents affected by Cyclone Shaheen, which hit the Sultanate earlier this week. This campaign is working hand in hand with the ministerial committee, which was formed based on the orders of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq to assess the damages and impacts caused by the cyclone. The campaign is also cooperating with the National Committee for Emergency Management and the Main Military Committee for Emergency Management at the Royal Army of Oman. The volunteering campaign is going to work in 7 sectors in both wilayas to provide a number of services, including cleaning, distributing food and water, and helping aforementioned committees with providing other basic needs and services. His Excellency Sultan bin Salam Al Habsi, Minister of Finance and the head of the Ministerial Committee for Evaluation of Damages caused by the tropical weather conditions, said the number of volunteers and the participants from various institutions rose to 15,000 volunteers. His Excellency added that restoration projects for the main and other roads were assigned to companies, some of which have already started today, and other companies will mobilize their projects afterwards. His Excellency pointed out relief teams were deployed to assess the damages to houses mainly in the governorates of North and South Al-Batina. More than 3,000 heavy equipment have reached the affected areas from all around the country to assist the restoration projects. Engineers from the Ministry of Transport and Communications have reached affected areas to provide the necessary assistance. His Excellency, the head of the Ministerial Committee, added that the number of temporary accommodations were provided to citizens whose houses were damaged. Less than 500 citizens are still waiting for temporary shelters out of 5,400 citizens who were waiting but decided to return to their houses to clean and turn to their place of living with the support of volunteers groups. His Excellency described the damages to the wilayas of Suwaiq and Al-Khabura as huge, but the national solidarity and the government response to action was quick. In addition, the citizens' understanding and contribution, which have played a huge role in these efforts, continue to restore electricity and water services, with 90% and 60% of power services returning to wilayats of Al-Khabura and As-Suwaiq, and 160 water transportation vehicles distributing water in the affected areas. Around 15,000 volunteers from the different governorates of the Sultanate are heading today to North Al-Batina to help those affected by Cyclone Shaheen. Ahmed Al-Riyami, Assistant Coordinator of the Relief and Shelter Sector, said it is expected that the number of volunteers will reach more than 15,000 volunteers as the sector works to supervise and organize roles in cooperation with the Royal Armed Forces and other relevant authorities. Ariami said that since the sector received the directives of the National Center for Emergency Management in activating the role of volunteers in the two governorates affected by the tropical situation, North Al-Batina and South Al-Batina, the sector began dividing roles and focusing on the affected areas. Ariami calls on all volunteers to unite efforts according to the plan drawn up to accomplish the tasks in a way that ensures that aid reaches all those affected. This campaign is supported by the efforts of the Ministerial Committee, which was ordered by His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq to be formed to assess the damage caused by the tropical situation, and the response sectors of the National Committee for Emergency Management and the main Military Committee for Emergency Management of the Royal Armed Forces. The volunteer campaign will work through 7 sectors to provide a number of services, including public cleaning, distribution of essentials, and support concerned authorities in providing basic services. The Military Main Committee for Emergency Management in the Sultan's Armed Forces reviewed in its meeting today the logistical and support efforts extended by the Sultan's Armed Forces departments of the Ministry of Defense and the military installations and formations that are currently deployed. The committee also reviewed the field work progress of work groups that are working in conjunction with Sultan's Armed Forces and other departments of the Ministry of Defense in the governorates of North and South Al-Batina. In addition, the committee reviewed the relief and restoration process for citizens and residents in line with the national goals to bring situation back to normalcy, reverse the impacts and remove debris caused by the tropical cyclone. Personnel of the Royal Army of Oman, Royal Air Force of Oman, Royal Navy of Oman, Royal Guard of Oman, Sultan Special Force, Engineering Services at the Ministry of Defense, and students of Military Technological College cooperated in cleaning the main and bypass roads and the houses of citizens and residents of the cyclone-hit areas in North and South Al-Batina. These participations comes in light of the plan of the main Military Committee for Emergency Management and in cooperation with the National Committee for Emergency Management. Sultan's Armed Forces provided ready meals to families in the affected areas in the governorate of North and South Al-Batina. SAF deployed set up military field kitchens in various areas of specific locations as per the general plan executed by the Military Main Committee for Emergency Management and relevant subcommittees assigned to the two governorates. Military vehicles were deployed to transport the prepared food from the military field kitchens to the citizens and residents in the affected areas. The Omani community from east, west, south and north of our beloved country Oman shone in a special way of unity and solidarity with all those affected by tropical cyclone Shaheen. I was there this morning and afternoon in the Wilaya of Suwaiq and as well as Al Khabura, and just managed to make this report thanks to the advanced technology. Here are the details. A week ago, the nation faced a historic tropical cyclone Shaheen. The effects from this tropical cyclone caused widespread, long-lasting damage across the north and south Al-Batina. As a consequence of this horrific tragedy, the communal love and compassion of whole of the Omani community was awakened, triggered and inspired by the mobilization of the Omani community from east, west, south and north of our beloved country Oman, in a special way of unity and solidarity to face this tragedy together to provide the much needed support, be they material, social, financial or psychological resources, wherever and whenever indicated. Appropriately, this all is being mobilized in conjunction with the firm and steady guidance and direction of the government and in coordination with other affiliated agencies and resources across multiple locations. Similar to past experiences of such calamities, a large number of military forces, police force and other governmental personnel were deployed before and after the cyclone landfall to provide assistance to survivors and community recovery efforts, and which are still ongoing to bring the situation back to normal. This deployment is considered to be one of the largest post-disaster humanitarian and reconstruction efforts in the country. It involves the public utility and infrastructure repair or replacement, and emergency response efforts are being carried out on the ground around the clock, making roads accessible again and providing emergency power, utilizing national capabilities in a collective efforts to serve citizens and residents affected in the two governorates.
We are a crossing team. We are a four-wheel drive group. In this type of disasters, actually, we are always using our vehicles, going to help our brothers and families in any affected region. So we are going today to Al-Batina region, trying to support our brothers with the necessary items.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are team of Habbat Dhufar. We came from Salala to help our brothers and families in Al-Batina.
We are happy that we arrived there from Salala, and we are going to make all the assistance for other families in Al-Batina.
Witnessing this number of thousands of trucks coming from every corner of the country carrying messages of love and hope and togetherness, coupled with the much-needed material resources to meet the immediate needs of their fellow Omanis and residents alike at this time of need, is a clear indication of a blessed nation that will always serve, strive, and not to yield to adversity of any kind in its determination to rise from the ashes of such natural calamities and others alike.
We are here today, 300 people, volunteers from MOD Engineering Services, to support our friends and our families in Suwaiq during the highly damaged of cyclone Shaheen. Alhamdulillah, we are covering most of the area. We are trying to at least reduce the crisis happening here. And we hope, inshallah, satisfy and all volunteers here ready to continue day by night their work to help our people.
People are united, and Shaheen cyclone has displayed excellent unity and cooperation among all the people of Oman. Alhamdulillah.
These admirable and outstanding national efforts of all hands on deck by all concerned will indeed boost the government efforts in bringing the life back to normal and safeguard the national achievements under the wise leadership of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq. These admirable and outstanding efforts by all concerned will indeed boost the efforts of the government in achieving the normal life for the citizens. Abdullah bin Ahmed al-Rubi'i, Sultanate of Oman Television, Al-Khabura, North Al-Batina. Indeed, witnessing the damages there is beyond explanation. But with the unity, everything goes well, thanks to that particular unity. Oman oil price December delivery 2021 today reached $81.14 comprising an increase by $3.92 from the price of yesterday, which was $77.22. The average price of Oman oil October delivery 2021 has stabilized at $69.38, thus $3.35 per barrel lower than September delivery 2021. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman Television, and yet to come in our news bulletin. Panda cubs at Tokyo Zoo get their names to debut in January. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. A delegation from the European Union's Election Observation Mission visited polling stations in Baghdad as military personnel continue casting their ballots 2 days before the rest of nation votes in parliamentary elections. The vote is being held 6 months before the elections were due, in line with the promise made by Prime Minister Mustafa Al-Kadhimi, where he assumed office in 2020. He is seeking to appease anti-government protesters who rose up in October 2019 in Baghdad and Iraq South. There are 3,449 candidates vying for 329 seats in parliament in Sunday's vote, which will be the fifth held since the fall of Saddam Hussein after the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003. More than 24 million of Iraq's estimated 38 million people are eligible to vote. The Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to journalist Maria Ressa of the Philippines and Dmitry Muratov of Russia. The winners were announced today by Berit Reiss-Andersens, chair of the Norwegian Nobel Committee.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2021 to Maria Ressa and Dmitry Muratov for their efforts to safeguard freedom of expression, which is a precondition for democracy and lasting peace. Ms. Ressa and Mr. Muratov are receiving the Peace Prize for their courageous fight for freedom of expression in the Philippines and in Russia.
Homelessness in the UK's capital city of London is an all too familiar problem. Despite programs pushed by the city's mayor to get people off the streets, it remains an issue. These two buses may be the answer. They've been recently refurbished as part of a project called Driving for Change. Simal Ezel, who is the founder of the social enterprise Change Please, is behind the idea. The projects offer much needed services from haircuts and shower facilities to assistance opening bank accounts. The buses will also offer free dental care, GP consultations and employment support. In London, an ex-offender who was deported from America 3 years ago found himself sleeping rough for a month and had endured an addiction to pain-killing narcotics after a car crash. With the help of driving for change, he managed to train as a barista. According to the British charity shelter, 23% of the people without accommodation who were given temporary help by the government's pandemic scheme, everyone in are no longer being assisted. And now here is the story about panda twins. Giant panda twins born at Tokyo's Ueno Zoo in June got their names today, Lei Lei for the female cub and Xiao Xiao for her brother. The twin cubs, which were palm-sized pink creatures, were born on June 23rd, have grown and now have their unique black and white blocks with black fur around their eyes, ears and limbs. Xiao Xiao means the light of dawn turning brighter, and Lei Lei portrays a bud becoming a beautiful flower and developing a bright future. Officials from the zoo and the Tokyo government chose the names from more than 190,000 entries sent from around Japan, and after consulting with the Giant Panda National Park in China, which owns the pandas. Both of them weigh about 6 kilograms, nearly 50 times their weight at birth, and about 60 centimeters long. Officials said the panda cubs are still raised inside the zoo, but their debut is expected in January, when they turned 6 months along with their mother panda. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The national campaign to support and help people in the affected areas started, and various sectors continues restoring services damaged by Cyclone Shaheen. His Excellency the Minister of Finance stresses awarding a number of projects to rebuild some affected roads in the governorates of North and South Al-Batina, and temporary accommodations are provided to citizens whose houses were damaged. The European Union observers visits polling stations in Baghdad as special voting kicks in. And with that, we do conclude this news bulletin. But before we leave, we say, oh God, preserve the blessing of love, unity, and cooperation among all the people of Oman, in Oman, and with all the people of the world. Good night to all of you.